Welcome back. If you're following along with the series, playlist in the cards now, we've just defeated Nargacuga in the quest, Jumping at Shadows. Now it's time to take down Uragaan in the quest, The Volcano's Fury. Uragaan has some of the lowest hit zones we've seen so far, with every part except 2 being at or below 25 for cutting damage. The 2 that aren't are his stomach and his tail. For impact, every hit zone except his stomach is at or below 30, but the impact hit zone for the stomach is lower than cutting. If you're using impact damage, you don't have to be quite as careful as you would be with a cutting weapon. Make sure to keep your weapon sharpened. If your attack bounces off, it could get you killed. For gunners, every hit zone except his stomach and his head, when it's broken, are very low. I usually don't mention hit zones too much, but for this fight, it's very important. If you don't know what a hit zone is, think of it as the defense of a monster. A lower number means it takes less damage. When I say a part has a hit zone of 25, it means that only 25% of damage will get through when you hit it. Being new to 3rd gen, Uragaan also has a gimmick. His head is his lowest hit zone for every damage type, except for bowguns where it's tied with his back and his tail tip. However, if we can break his head, it will change to being one of his highest hit zones for every damage type. Remember, high hit zones are good for us, lower ones are good for the monster. Now, because the hit zones are so low, or to clarify, the physical hit zones are so low, it can make it hard to break his head. This is where elemental damage comes in, because the elemental hit zones for his head are pretty good. Without getting too much into it, if you want to break his chin, you should focus on water, dragon, or ice damage in that order. When the chin is broken, the elemental hit zones drop, changing the elemental effectiveness to dragon, ice, and water in that order. But at that point, the physical hit zone is so high that the element's job is more or less done. Unfortunately, at this point in the game, we may or may not have a very good water weapon to use, so dragon or ice should work just fine as well. Though depending on your strategy, you probably want to use traps and bombs to break his head first. For quick recommendations, for greatsword, hammer, lance, and switch axe, you can use the dragon element. And for longsword, sword and shield, dual blades, and gun lance, there are some decent ice ones available at this level. Hunting horn is a pretty good water weapon, and that's what I'll be using and recommending, as you won't need to use traps or bombs at all, which goes along with the minimal loadouts that I give for these guides. As always, feel free to adjust what I recommend to better fit your needs. I realize that's a lot of information, and we haven't even gone over his attacks yet. But, like with all 3rd gen monsters, there's typically some gimmick to understand that can make it a lot easier to deal with. With all of that out of the way, let's finally get into Uragaan's attacks.
そうなるもの。
If this is your first time hunting Uragaan, go to Area 6 and the cutscene will play. For future hunts, if you're fast enough, he should still be in Area 6. I recommend you find Uragaan first, but you can play 2 white notes to prepare the song ahead of time if you'd like. For this hunt, there's going to be 2 phases. One is for normal/exhausted, and the other is when he's enraged. Uragaan is very annoying. He's very big and way too fast for his size. Specifically, when he's enraged, he becomes so fast that it's not really safe to be around him anymore. On top of that, so many of his actions, such as turning around for example, move him so far away so as to make you think there's an opening when there isn't. Anyways, for now, and when he's not enraged, use a Might Seed, make sure your double white buff on its encore is active, and hit his head. When not enraged, there are a few openings that are safe to hit his head. You can also try and use the bombs you're given, but honestly, the white encore song buff is good enough to break his head with. More than anything, for this fight, you need to focus on not getting hit. That might seem obvious, but I mean I want you to focus specifically on not letting him hit you. You'll save yourself a lot of frustration if you play it as safe as possible, even if that's annoying. Believe me, I know. Though I did not practice for it, I'm sure if you want to be more aggressive, using a bowgun or a bow will give you better results. But I wanted to show a Blademaster specific strategy, since I feel like it can be a struggle. He's doing a special Area 6 rollout attack. For this one I just recommend you leave. It's up to you, but with Uragaan paintballed, you can see when he's done rolling around. It should be after he's made around 3 circles. This is what I'm talking about when I say you need to focus on not taking damage. I guess I could have gone and hit his legs or stomach, but it's just safer not to. Not to mention, also, before he first enrages, you want to try your best to break his chin, just in case. He's much more dangerous when enraged, so breaking his chin should happen when he's not enraged, ideally. That's what happens when you're not focused entirely on safe play. The best advice I can give you right now is to try and remember the parts of the game that you do enjoy, and keep in mind that you only really need to do this once or twice if you prefer. I guess that exploding rock made him enraged. It's worth noting that when he first got up from being KO'd, that roar won't stun you. Now that he's enraged, take an adamant seed and switch into passive mode. Play a lot safer now. If you can get behind that side bite, you can avoid being hit. Your 2 main targets are his head, especially when it's broken, and the little nub behind his legs. It's his stomach. It's his stomach, okay? Because he's faster and because you can't tell which direction his quad slams will turn, it's just no longer a safe attack to punish reliably. Sometimes the Uragaan play nice. You can't rely on sometimes, so kill them ASAP. Uragaan's chin just broke, making it a great target for when he's not enraged. For now, we want to focus mainly on his stomach. Attacking him head-on is just too risky because of how fast he is now, but even focusing on his stomach has risks due to his gas move and his tackle. He's exhausted now. Once he's out of enraged mode, take a Might Seed and focus on his head. Like I said, the Uragaan can really suck. Take them out ASAP. The monster giving us openings is a good time to do it. Don't think of it as you losing the opening. This is the time you're meant to do things like this. Now that they're taken care of, I can actually focus on fighting the Uragaan. Being staggered by him walking is just bullshit. There's so much about this fight that just sucks. I don't know why they designed this thing this way, but whatever. It's not impossible, just frustrating. Speed eating is such an awesome skill. Don't forget to refresh your white buff, though once his chin is broken, the normal non-encore buff is the main thing we want. When he's knocked over like this, you can mine his back. He's enraged again, so I'll take another adamant seed. You can tell he's enraged from the black smoke coming out of his mouth. The most consistent way I've found to avoid his rollout attacks is to stand by his legs where he starts. If you're standing there, when he turns, he'll always miss. There's that really cool tackle move. And now he's in the lava. Pretty awesome. Chronopolis are usually fine to ignore. I'd recommend killing them, as usually isn't good enough. When he's knocked over, you can try to hit his stomach or run around to his head. It's a tough decision. Uragaan's design is to be as annoying as he possibly can be, so when he topples over, he's very far from you. And even if you get to his head, he flings it around all over the place. Like this. Instead of attacking wildly when he's KO'd, you want to spend most of your time making sure your attacks line up with his flailing. If you made it this far and you've been having a lot of trouble with this dumb monster, it's not just you. For what it's worth, he's a lot better in the later game. To make either of the Uragaan armor sets, this is what you'll need. When carving Uragaan, you can get Uragaan scale, Uragaan shell, Uragaan jaw, or Uragaan scoot. When capturing Uragaan, you can get Uragaan shell, Uragaan scale, Uragaan jaw, 2 lava chunks, Uragaan's cute, or Uragaan marrow. When breaking Uragaan's tail, you can get 2 Uragaan scales, 2 lava chunks, Uragaan scoot, or an Uragaan marrow. When carving Uragaan's tail, you can get Uragaan scale, Uragaan scoot, or Uragaan marrow. When breaking Uragaan's chin, you can get Uragaan jaw, Uragaan shell, or Uragaan scoot. When mining Uragaan's back, you can get coal, lava chunks, or firestone. When picking up a shiny, you can get wyvern tears, lava chunk, or Uragaan marrow. Monster Bone Plus can be obtained from a variety of monsters, such as Zinogre, Rathalos, Barioth, or Uragaan. The Volvidon parts can be obtained from Volvidon, which can be fought in the 4-star village quest, Walk and Roll. Dragonite ore and Firestone can both be mined from the volcano. Be sure to mine in the higher up areas. By default, the Blademaster Armor gives us these skills: Defense Up Small, Punishing Draw, and the negative skill, Water Resistance -10. Defense Up Small simply increases your warning, Math Ahead, warning. Defense Up Small increases our defense by 15. If we remove the armor charm from our inventory, which increases defense by 12, each piece of armor gives 22 defense for a total of 110, plus 1 that all hunters have with no armor equipped, giving us 111. Adding 15 to that will give us 126. For a demonstration, the Zinogre armor actually has the same defense as Uragaan, but without defense up small. For our current amount of defense, 111 compared to 126 is a difference of 3% reduced damage. The formula to find out how much damage reduction you have is 1 minus 80 divided by 80 plus your current defense. You should read the resulting decimal number as a percentage. After a little rounding, at 111 defense we have 58% damage reduction. At 126 defense we have 61% damage reduction. Whether or not that is something that is valuable is up to you, though given that we only have, at most, 150 health, an attack that would deal 150 damage to us is being mitigated down to about 62 with 111 defense, and 58 with 126. But that's an extreme example just to show a difference of 4. When damage taken is 52 or lower, the difference in damage is just a single point. There is a formula for monster damage, but I'm not sure where to find the monster's attack value specifically, and that's beyond the scope of this section and this video for that matter. So what about defense up medium and large? Let me tell you, I had to go through so much just to find out that this skill does not increase your defense by a flat amount, at least not above defense up small. I was losing my damn mind. I had to go to an IGN website when I was looking for information on Portable 3rd to find out that in 3 Ultimate, defense up medium increases your defense by 3% plus 20, and defense up large increases your defense by 7% plus 25, and through my own testing, that proved to be correct for Portable 3rd as well. The Portable 3rd fandom, I know, gross, wiki just says that the skill increases your defense. Incredible, very helpful, thanks. I initially assumed it was just a flat amount, because it isn't Freedom Unite, though it was listed as defense plus 20, etc., and you might think, well, in Portable 3rd it's not defense plus 20, it's defense up small. But the attack skills are named the same thing, and those are a flat increase, so you would expect the fandom, I know, gross wiki to at least show that, but it still just says the attack up skill increases your attack, so what the fuck? But I digress. Using a base defense of 111, defense up small gives us 15 more defense, translating to 3% extra damage resistance, or DR. Defense up medium gives us 23 more defense, which is 4% more DR. And defense up large gives us 32 more defense, which is 6% more DR. Not too bad all things considered, though due to diminishing returns, defense up skills help most in the early game, even with the percentage increase. And you should probably focus more on damage skills in the late game, and you should, to a certain extent, concern yourself more with being hit less rather than taking less damage per hit. Punishing Draw is a new skill that allows weapons that don't normally do KO damage to do KO damage with their unsheath attacks. Depending on what weapon you're using, this skill is actually pretty good. It might be even a little too good, so I encourage you to give it a try. This works great for weapons like Greatsword, since you'll be doing unsheath attacks almost exclusively, or Longsword, since the sheath animation is basically the same as Greatswords. The real star of the show here, in my opinion, is Sword and Shield, since you can sheath your weapon so quickly. You have other attacks that can build a KO, and aiming the jumping slice is pretty consistent, and each unsheath attack will deal 30 KO build, which is kind of insane. For context, the only attacks that Hammer has that is at or above 30 KO buildup is the Golf Swing at 50, the second charge level at 40, and the ending hits of the spinning attack. The Super Pound only does 27, but if the first part of it hits, it total out to 32. For Hunting Horn, there is no single attack that has a buildup of 30 or higher. The only ones that do are the Recital Mode Encore combos. For further context, most monsters have an initial threshold of 150, requiring 5 unsheath attacks to KO, not taking into consideration recovery due to lack of buildup, and for half the monsters in the game, the second stun will take between 5 and 10 to knock them out again. You can see how giving a weapon with a very fast unsheath attack and sheath animation a KO value of 30 could be pretty powerful, especially considering that you're still going to be using the weapon you intend to do damage with. Most status weapons are typically balanced to do less damage while they do something else, the exhaust file from Switch Axe for example. But with Punishing Draw, you get your KO and your DPS too. On top of dealing KO, it also makes your unsheath attacks build up exhaustion on monsters, which, when fully built up, will reduce a monster's stamina by 100 out of a maximum of 1000, and cause them to do a special flinch that is indicated by a splash of saliva from their mouth. Yucky. The only weapons I wouldn't recommend you use this with are Dual Blades, since it can be hard to land both hits, and it's only 24 KO buildup even if they do both land. Hammer and Hunting Horn, since it's actually disabled for them. Lance and Gun Lance, because they have slow sheath animations and you want your weapon out most of the time. And Switch Axe, though I'm only talking about the axe unsheath. It swings too low to the ground and to your side, so it can be hard to be accurate every time. The sword unsheath attack works just fine, but the sheath animation is still quite long. Finally, Water Resistance minus 10 will increase the amount of damage we take from water-based attacks by 10%, which isn't great. The way I would recommend you build this set is with these decorations. 2 Defense Jewel 2s, 1 Defense Jewel 1, and 1 Water Resistance Jewel. This will leave us with the skills Defense Up Large and Punishing Draw. If you want armor that can give you a status effect on almost any weapon to disable a monster for a bit, then consider giving this set a try, and I find it works quite well with Sword and Shield in particular, or Greatsword as you want to play much different to get the effect. By default, the Gunner armor gives us these skills: Defense Up Small, Pierce Up, and the negative skill Water Resistance minus 10. Refer to the Blademaster section for specifics on the defense skill. In the case of the Gunner armor, each piece gives us 11 defense, adding up to 55, plus our 1 universal defense, giving us 56 defense, which is a damage resistance of 41%. As a reminder, the defense skills above Defense Up Small will increase your defense based on your current defense. Our base defense is 56 with 41% DR. Defense up small is always 15, giving us 71, which is 47%, which is quite a leap of 6%. Defense up medium is 21 extra, giving us 77, and a DR of 49%, up 8% from our base. And defense up large will add 28, giving us 84, and a DR of 51%, giving us 10% more DR than our base defense would have. Not too bad. Since we're using gunner armor with less defense than Blademaster armor, these types of skills are actually a bit more effective. As the higher our defense value is, the less each additional point actually adds to our damage resistance, or DR. Pierce up increases our piercing shots damage by 10%, which is quite a bit really. This is the first pierce armor set we have access to in the series, so if you'd like to use those shot types, this is the one to get. I can't really comment on how effective pierce shots are in this game, but from what I've heard it got nerfed in Portable 3rd, so take that how you will. Water resistance minus 10 will leave us at negative 30 in total, which means we will take 30% more damage from water attacks. I don't think this is terribly worth considering unless you're up against a monster that uses water and you really can't avoid its water-based attacks. I'll leave that up to you, but this is how I would build the armor set. With 2 defense jewel 2s, 1 defense jewel 1, and a single fire resistance jewel, we can get these skills. Defense up large, pierce up, fire resistance plus 5, and the negative skill, water resistance minus 10. This is a pierce shot set with some decent defense as far as gunner gear goes. If either of those aspects appeals to you, consider trying this one out. That's all I have to say about this hunt. If you've been following along with the series, this was our last key quest, and we are now faced with the urgent to get into 6-star village quest, which will be to hunt a Duramboros. We've come a long way, so keep it up. The 6-star quests are the last ones for the village. We're nearly there. Until next time.